It was a quiet morning in a small American town. The streets were clean, the houses looked perfect, and everyone smiled at each other, at least from the outside. But behind those fake smiles, something dark was hiding. A man named Marcus Green had just moved into this neighborhood a few months ago. He was calm, friendly, and hardworking. Marcus worked as an IT technician from home, spending most of his time fixing computers and helping clients online. He didn't bother anyone. He kept to himself, always polite and respectful. But soon after Marcus moved in, strange things started happening. At first, it was small. His trash can would suddenly disappear. His mailbox got broken twice. Sometimes when he went for a morning jog, he felt people staring at him from behind curtains. He tried to ignore it. Maybe it was just in his head, but it wasn't. A few weeks later, Marcus received a letter from the Homeowners Association, or HOA. It said he needed to maintain the community standards. He complained about the color of his fence, the size of his lawn, even the car he parked in front of his house. Marcus was confused. His house was clean and neat. Why were they targeting him? He sent a polite reply, promising to repaint his fence soon. But then the letters kept coming, one after another. Each one sounded more aggressive than the last. It felt like someone was trying to push him out. One night, Marcus was sitting in his living room when he heard loud voices outside. He looked through the window and saw 3 men standing on his property. They were pointing at the ground, talking about digging something. Marcus stepped outside and asked what was going on. One of the men, a tall guy wearing a yellow vest, turned and said, "HOA orders, sir. We're marking space for a drainage trench. Don't worry, it's for the community." Marcus frowned. "Right around my house? Why only here?" The man didn't answer. He just smiled a cold, strange smile and walked away. The next morning, Marcus woke up to loud machine sounds. He ran outside and saw a deep trench being dug right around his property line. It looked like a moat. The soil was piled up everywhere. His driveway was blocked. He couldn't even move his car. He went to talk to the HOA president, Mrs. Turner, a woman known for her strict rules. She looked at him with fake concern and said, "Oh, Marcus, it's just construction. Please be patient. It's nothing personal." But Marcus could feel it. Something wasn't right. The trench wasn't for drainage. It was too deep, too wide, and strangely placed. The neighbors started whispering and watching him. Some even laughed when he passed by. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He sat near the window, watching the trench through the moonlight. He thought about calling the police, but he knew they wouldn't take him seriously, not against the HOA. Then he had an idea. Marcus had worked in IT for years. He knew a thing or two about technology. If they wanted to play games with him, he would record every move they made. The next morning, before going out for groceries, Marcus installed hidden security cameras around his property. Small, high-quality ones that blended with the walls and lights. Nobody could see them. He smiled slightly, whispering to himself, "Let's see what you're really up to." The cameras began recording. Over the next few nights, something shocking started to appear on the footage. Things Marcus never imagined were happening when he wasn't home. The next morning, Marcus sat in his small living room, the faint sound of birds outside mixing with the hum of his laptop. The trench around his house was still there, a silent reminder that something strange was happening. He took a deep breath and opened his laptop. It was time to check what the hidden cameras had captured. The video started playing. At first, everything looked normal. Quiet nights, the wind moving the trees, and the occasional passing car. But around 2:30 a.m., something unusual appeared. Marcus leaned closer. In the dark, 3 figures walked near his fence. They were wearing hoodies and holding flashlights. They looked around, whispering to each other. Then one of them pointed toward Marcus's house. Marcus's eyes widened as he turned up the volume. One man said, "Let's make it harder for him to leave. The more we dig, the better." The other laughed. "Yeah, maybe he'll get scared and sell the house." Marcus froze. His heart beat faster. They weren't workers, they were neighbors. One of them was Mr. Cole, a man who often smiled at him during the day. The same man who once said, "Welcome to the neighborhood." Marcus watched in disbelief as they kicked his fence through trash near his door, and laughed quietly before walking away. He sat there, speechless. He had suspected something, but seeing it with his own eyes was different. It wasn't just about the trench. It was a plan to drive him out. He replayed the footage again and again. Each time, he noticed more shadows, laughter, movements behind bushes. Sometimes a car parked across the street for hours, lights off. Someone was always watching. Marcus saved the videos, backed them up, and hid the copies in a secure folder. He wasn't ready to confront anyone yet. He needed to understand why they were doing this. Days passed. The HOA continued sending him letters, demanding he fix imaginary problems, the color of his door, the height of his grass, even the noise of his computer equipment. It felt like harassment, but Marcus stayed calm. He smiled when he saw the neighbors stare. They didn't know he had evidence, solid proof. One evening, Marcus decided to visit Mrs. Turner, the HOA president, again. Her house was only 2 blocks away, a big fancy home with a perfect lawn. When he knocked, she opened the door with her usual fake smile. "Oh, Marcus, I hope you're not here to complain again," she said sweetly. He smiled back. "Not at all. I just wanted to know when the trench work will end. It's difficult to leave my driveway." Her expression shifted for a second. "Well, soon. The team is just finalizing things." Marcus looked her in the eyes and said softly, "I saw the footage." Her face went pale. "What footage?" "The one where your friends came at night, digging more, laughing about scaring me away." Mrs. Turner's lips trembled slightly, but she tried to act normal. "That's nonsense, Marcus. Maybe you misunderstood something." Marcus gave a small smile. "Maybe. But let's hope the police won't misunderstand when they see the same video." He turned and walked away slowly. Behind him, Mrs. Turner shut the door hard, her face turning red with anger. That night, Marcus sat on his porch, feeling the cool air. He wasn't scared anymore. He was determined. For the first time, the power had shifted, but something else was about to happen. Around midnight, his phone buzzed with a motion alert from one of his cameras. He opened the live feed. Someone was standing near the trench again, alone this time. The figure bent down, doing something near the camera pole. Marcus zoomed in and froze. It was Mrs. Turner herself, holding a small hammer, trying to destroy his camera. Marcus hit record on his screen immediately. His hands shook, but his face stayed calm. He whispered to himself, "Now, I've got you." The next morning, Marcus uploaded all the clips to a secure cloud drive. The evidence was safe, but what he didn't know was, this was just the beginning. Because after that night, the HOA would stop pretending, and Marcus's peaceful life would turn into something much darker. The next few days were tense. The trench around Marcus's house had become deeper and more dangerous. Every morning, he would find new signs, broken pieces of glass near his car, spray paint on his mailbox, strange footprints in the mud. It was no longer a secret. The HOA and a few of his neighbors had started an invisible war against him. But Marcus wasn't the kind of man who gave up easily. He sat at his desk one evening, the glow of his computer screen lighting his serious face. On the screen, the video played again, Mrs. Turner in her nightgown, breaking one of his cameras. He paused the clip, zoomed in, and smiled. "Got you," he whispered. Marcus decided it was time to collect more evidence. He installed 2 new hidden cameras, one disguised as a garden light and another as a door sensor. This time, he connected them directly to a cloud server. Even if someone destroyed them, the footage would be safe. Days went by quietly, too quietly. The neighbors stopped saying hello. Some avoided looking at him altogether. But Marcus knew silence was never peace. It was the calm before a storm. On a rainy night, Marcus sat near his window, watching the water fill the trench. The streetlights flickered and thunder rolled in the distance. Then, suddenly, he saw movement, a shadow near his fence. He checked the live camera feed. 3 people were back, the same men as before. But this time, they weren't digging. They were carrying gasoline cans. Marcus's heart raced. He turned up the volume. One of the men said, "Let's teach him a real lesson tonight." The second man laughed. "Yeah, make him run back to where he came from." Marcus didn't wait another second. He picked up his phone and dialed 911. His voice was calm but firm. "There are trespassers on my property. They're trying to start a fire." Within minutes, sirens echoed through the night. The men panicked and ran. But the cameras had already recorded their faces clearly. When the police arrived, Marcus showed them the footage. The officers were shocked. One of them, Officer Daniels, looked at Marcus and said, "These people live on your street?" "Yes," Marcus replied, "and they're part of the HOA." The next morning, the story spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. Police cars parked outside houses, officers knocked on doors, and neighbors peeked through curtains. For once, Marcus wasn't the one being watched. They were Mrs. Turner came to his door, pretending to be calm. "Marcus, you could have come to us first." Calling the police made things worse. Marcus crossed his arms. "Worse for who? The ones who tried to burn my house?" Her face stiffened. "You're misunderstanding everything. We were only trying to protect our community." "By digging trenches and setting fires?" Marcus asked coldly. She didn't answer. She just walked away. But as she did, Marcus noticed something. Fear. For the first time, Mrs. Turner looked scared. Over the next few days, HOA members started acting strange. Some avoided meetings. Others whispered about leaving the committee. Marcus knew why. The truth was spreading fast. The police were investigating. The videos had already been shared online anonymously. But then something unexpected happened. One morning, Marcus received an envelope in his mailbox. No name, no return address. Inside, there was a USB drive and a small note that read, "Watch this." "You don't know the whole story." Marcus plugged it into his computer. The video that opened made his heart stop. It showed a secret. HOA meeting recorded from someone's phone. Mrs. Turner was speaking. Her voice was low and angry. "We can't let him stay here. If he does, others will follow. This neighborhood has to stay the way it was." Gasps were heard in the room. Some people nodded. Others looked uncomfortable. Marcus sat there in silence. It wasn't just harassment, it was hate. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes hardening. "So that's what this is about," he said softly. Outside, the rain stopped. The trench was now half full of dirty water, a reflection of everything wrong in that perfect neighborhood. Marcus looked out the window and whispered, "They wanted a fight. Now they'll get one." And with that, he opened his laptop and began planning his next move, one that would shake the entire HOA to its core. The night was quiet again, but Marcus's mind was racing. The video from the USB kept replaying in his head, Mrs. Turner's voice, full of hate and control. It wasn't just about him. It was about who he was. For years, Marcus had worked hard, saved money, and finally bought a home in what he thought was a peaceful neighborhood. But now, it was clear these people never wanted him there. He sat at his desk, surrounded by coffee cups and open files. His hidden cameras had given him proof, but this new video? It was the weapon he needed to end this war. Marcus took a deep breath and began working. He edited together every clip, the trench digging, the late-night trespassers, Mrs. Turner breaking the cameras, and finally, the secret HOA meeting. He added subtitles, timestamps, and background music to make it clear and powerful. When he was done, he titled it "Trapped by the HOA, My Neighborhood Nightmare." The next morning, Marcus uploaded it to YouTube anonymously. Within hours, the video began spreading. People were shocked. Comments flooded in. "This is unbelievable. How can an HOA do this? That man needs justice." By evening, the video had thousands of views. News channels started calling it the Trench Case. Mrs. Turner and her team had no idea who had leaked it, but they knew the truth was out. Their smiles at the next HOA meeting were gone. The air was heavy, full of fear and anger. Marcus watched from his window as cars lined up outside Mrs. Turner's house. Some were reporters, others were angry neighbors, demanding answers. That night, Marcus finally slept peacefully for the first time in weeks, but peace didn't last long. 2 days later, his phone buzzed with a strange message: "Take down the video or things will get worse." No name. No number. Just the message. Marcus sighed and smiled slightly. "So, they're scared now," he muttered. He didn't delete the video. Instead, he made more backups. He uploaded copies to multiple platforms, sent them to friends, and even scheduled automatic re-uploads. If they tried to silence him, the truth would still live online. Then something unexpected happened. A young woman named Lisa, who lived down the street, came to see him. She looked nervous but determined. "Marcus," she said quietly, "I was at that meeting. I didn't agree with what they said. I tried to stop them, but Mrs. Turner, she threatened to fine me." Marcus looked at her kindly. "You recorded that video, didn't you?" Lisa nodded slowly. "Yes, I couldn't stay silent anymore," Marcus thanked her. "You did the right thing. Now we'll make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else." With Lisa's help, Marcus gathered more internal HOA documents, fake fines, forged complaints, and even racist emails between board members. The evidence was strong enough to destroy them. A week later, local news reporters arrived on Marcus's street. Cameras rolled, microphones pointed, and the story went public. The headline read, "HOA harasses homeowner, hidden cameras expose corruption." When Mrs. Turner saw the broadcast, her face turned white. Her phone rang nonstop. Reporters, angry residents, even city officials demanding explanations. That evening, police cars showed up again, but this time they weren't at Marcus's house. They went straight to Mrs. Turner's door. She was questioned for hours. The other HOA members started resigning one by one. The once perfect neighborhood was now falling apart. From his porch, Marcus watched everything quietly. He didn't celebrate or smile. He just sat there, listening to the sound of justice finally arriving. Lisa joined him and said softly, "You changed everything, you know." Marcus shook his head. "No, they changed everything when they forgot what being a neighbor really means." The trench was still there, muddy, empty, and broken, like the lies that built it. But this time, Marcus wasn't afraid of it. He looked at it one last time and whispered, "You wanted to trap me, but you've trapped yourselves." As the sun set, he closed his laptop, knowing that sometimes silence isn't peace, and sometimes one voice, one truth, can shake an entire neighborhood. But deep down, he also knew people like Mrs. Turner don't give up easily, and the fight might not be over yet. The days after the news broke were different. The once silent neighborhood now buzzed with whispers, reporters, and flashing cameras. The HOA's reputation was destroyed, and the residents who had once smiled politely at Marcus now avoided his eyes. But Marcus didn't care about their stares anymore. He had won the truth, or so he thought. One evening, as the golden sun dipped behind the houses, Marcus sat on his porch, sipping coffee. He felt something he hadn't felt in months. Peace. The trench still surrounded his yard like a scar, but now it reminded him of his strength, not his pain. Then, his phone buzzed. It was an email. No name, no subject. Just a single line: "You think this is over." Marcus frowned. He looked around the street. Everything seemed normal. Kids were riding bikes, a dog barked somewhere, and the air smelled of cut grass. But deep inside, something felt off. Later that night, he heard a loud bang outside. He rushed to the window and saw his car engulfed in flames. Fire danced on the metal, turning it into a glowing skeleton. Marcus's heart pounded. He called 911, his voice shaking but calm. "My car, it's on fire. I think someone did this on purpose." The fire department arrived quickly, but the car was gone, melted, destroyed. The firefighters found a small metal can near the fence. Gasoline. Marcus watched the flames die out, the smoke rising into the night sky. Neighbors stood nearby, whispering, pretending to be shocked. Among them was Mrs. Turner. Her face was pale, her lips pressed tight, her eyes cold. Officer Daniels arrived again, taking notes. "Looks like arson," he said. "Do you have security footage?" Marcus nodded. Always. When he checked the footage later that night, his stomach turned. The camera caught a figure sneaking toward his driveway, face covered. Gloves on, but there was something familiar about the way they moved. Then, as the person turned slightly toward the camera, a flash of lightning lit up their face. It was Mrs. Turner's son, Ethan. Marcus froze. So that was her desperate move. She couldn't attack him herself anymore, so she sent her own blood to do it. The next morning, Marcus went straight to the police with the footage. Officer Daniels looked serious this time. "We'll take it from here, Mr. Green. You've done more than enough." That evening, the police came again, sirens loud, lights flashing. They arrested Ethan Turner for arson and trespassing. The neighborhood watched in silence as Mrs. Turner screamed, crying and begging them to stop, but it was too late. After that night, Mrs. Turner disappeared. Her house was empty within a week, blinds closed, yard overgrown. The HOA office shut down. A new committee was formed without her name. Everyone said the nightmare was finally over, but Marcus wasn't convinced. A month later, while cleaning his garden, he found something strange buried near the trench, a small black device covered in dirt. It looked like a hidden microphone. He stared at it, speechless. Someone had been recording him. He took it inside and connected it to his computer. When the audio played, his blood ran cold. It wasn't just Mrs. Turner. There were other voices, men he didn't recognize. Talking about keeping control and making examples. This wasn't just one woman's obsession. It was part of something bigger. Marcus leaned back in his chair. The room's silent, except for the faint static from the recording. He whispered, "So, this goes deeper than I thought." He knew what he had to do. He gathered all his files, the videos, the documents, the recordings, and sent them to an investigative journalist who had been following the story since the start. A week later, the journalist called him. Her voice was serious. "Marcus, you were right. We traced the voices in those recordings. Some of them belonged to city officials, people who secretly funded the HOA. Marcus's heart sank. This wasn't just about one neighborhood anymore. It was corruption, power, and hate hiding behind clean white fences. That night, as Marcus looked out his window at the trench, now dry, cracked, and forgotten, he felt both anger and pride. They had tried to break him. They had tried to burn his life. But all they did was uncover their own darkness. He whispered to himself, "This story isn't over. Not yet." And somewhere out there, Mrs. Turner was watching too, waiting, planning her next move in the shadows. Weeks passed. The trench was finally being filled, the mud covered with fresh soil, as if nothing had ever happened. But for Marcus Green, nothing felt normal. Every night, he still checked the cameras. Every sound outside made him alert. He had peace, but it didn't feel real. The journalist's report had exploded online. It exposed everything: the HOA's corruption, the city officials behind it, the hateful schemes to control who could live in their neighborhood. People across the country were shocked. Lawsuits began. Investigations started. But one name was missing from the reports: Mrs. Turner. She had vanished completely. No one had seen her, not even her son, since his arrest. Some said she moved away. Others whispered she was hiding. Marcus didn't care at first until strange things started happening again. It began with footsteps at night. Slow, deliberate steps around his fence. Then came letters in his mailbox written in shaky handwriting. "You took everything from me. This neighborhood was mine. I'll finish what I started." Marcus didn't report it right away. He knew the police were tired of this case. So he did what he did best. He prepared. He upgraded his cameras, installed motion lights, and even set up an alert system that pinged his phone whenever someone came close. He wasn't the same man anymore. He was ready for her. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled in the distance, Marcus was watching the live feeds on his computer. The rain made it hard to see, but then a shadow appeared near the back gate. He leaned forward. The figure wore a black coat and a hood. The motion alert buzzed on his phone. He zoomed in. The person lifted their head slightly, and for a split second, lightning flashed. It was Mrs. Turner. Marcus stood up, heart pounding but calm. He walked toward the door, grabbed his flashlight, and stepped outside. Rain hit his face as he scanned the yard. "Mrs. Turner," he called out. "You don't have to do this." There was silence, then a voice low and trembling. "You ruined my life, Marcus. My husband left. My son's in jail. You made me a monster in front of everyone?" Marcus sighed. "You did that to yourself." She laughed bitterly. "You think you're the hero? You came here and changed everything. People like you don't belong here." Marcus stepped closer, his voice steady. "People like me. You mean people who work hard and just want a home?" She glared at him through the rain. "You'll never understand. This was our place. Perfect, peaceful. Until you showed up." Lightning struck again, lighting up her face. She was holding something, a small can of gasoline. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "Don't do it. It's over." But Mrs. Turner wasn't listening. Her hand shook, tears mixing with the rain. "It's never over," she whispered. "If I can't live here, no one will." She moved toward his porch. But before she could act, flashing red lights filled the street, police cars. Marcus had already called them when his phone alert went off. Officers rushed in, shouting commands. Mrs. Turner froze, then dropped the can. The sound echoed in the rain. She fell to her knees, sobbing. As the officers handcuffed her, she looked up at Marcus. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You think you won?" Marcus looked down at her calmly. "No," he said. "I just stopped losing." They took her away. The rain washed over the ground, filling the trench one last time. The next morning, the neighborhood felt lighter, like the air itself had changed. The HOA sign was gone, the old office boarded up. People slowly began to talk again, wave again, live again. Marcus stood in his yard, watching workers fill the final corner of the trench. Lisa came by with coffee and smiled. "You finally got your peace," she said softly. Marcus nodded. "Peace doesn't come easy. You have to fight for it sometimes." She looked at him curiously. "So what will you do now?" Marcus smiled faintly. "Maybe tell my story. Maybe help others who went through the same thing." As the sun broke through the clouds, Marcus looked around the same houses, the same street, but a different world now. He turned off his cameras for the first time in months. But as he walked back inside, his laptop pinged. A new email had arrived, no sender, no subject. He opened it. It contained one sentence. "You may have stopped me, but not all of us." Marcus stared at the screen, his calm expression returning. He closed the laptop slowly and whispered, "Then I'll be ready." The camera zooms out, the house quiet, the trench gone, but the story of Marcus Green would live forever. As the man who stood alone against an entire system and refused to be buried,